Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name's James Schofield, and you're listening to My Growth Coaching, a podcast which explores the field of business coaching. In each episode of this series, I'm talking to expert coaches from inside and outside of the international technology company Siemens about the business coaching issues they encounter with their coaching clients and how they work together to find practical solutions, helping each client become the best version of themselves. My guests will share interesting case studies about the challenges people face in their business life and how they deal with them. It could be dealing with conflicts in a team, overcoming procrastination, taking difficult decisions, all issues that we are familiar with but which maybe we don't know how to solve on our own. So join us and make sure you listen to the very end, because that's where I'll give a short summary of the recommendations from each episode that might help you manage your life just a little bit better. Today's topic is about the use of artificial intelligence in business coaching. Now, although artificial intelligence has been around for a very long time, it was only with the launch of ChatGPT by the company OpenAI in November 2022 that it really caught the public imagination. This is something that is already having an impact on the job market, so could that mean that coaching, something which I and I'm sure many of you out there love very dearly, will lose out to AI-inspired chatbots in the near future? Well, there is a lot of activity going on in this sphere, so I felt it would be useful to talk to Stefanie Düll, someone who really understands about the use of AI in coaching, and see what she can tell us. Steffi has worked in different parts of Siemens, always at the interface of business and IT. She has a master's in consulting and coaching, and helping others with their personal development is very important to her. This is also reflected outside of work as well, where she has been involved in volunteer projects for over a decade in different areas like elderly care, child protection, and food rescuing. And she has managed to save more than a ton of groceries from going to waste over the last 2 years. So let's go and meet her. Hello, Steffi. Welcome to My Growth Coaching.
Hello, James. Happy to be here today.
So, Steffi, I've already introduced you to our listeners already, but could you tell us a little bit about your coaching background?
Sure. So my coaching background basically started when I did a master's degree in consulting and coaching, which was basically a mixture of psychological background modules as well as practical coaching sessions with supervisions from my professors. And through that, I've coached more than 50 different people with different kind of topics, so ranging from personal development also to business, content, family topics, whatever came up, because I also wanted to use it to learn a little bit more what my passion is about. And yeah, I'm also a member of the coaching initiatives within Siemens and setting up my own coaching offer currently.
Okay. So what drew you to coaching in the first place?
So I've always been interested in psychology since there is a background of mental illnesses within my family. So I've always been really aware of that. And early on started on basically to coach colleagues of mine without really noticing that I'm coaching them or without having a really professional background there, but just intuitively asking good questions to help them find their own solutions, I would say. And I realized that it was helpful for them and that I had really fun doing it. So that's also why I decided to go to Grow to Glow and try out my own coaching experience to learn also a little bit more on how a professional process would look like and also be on the other side when you see what impact it has on you personally. And there I had a really great coach here within Siemens, and it really helped me. So that's why I also decided to further on, develop my personal coaching skills and do it in a more professional way here.
Okay. And a little bit of background information there for our listeners. Grow to Glow is a coaching initiative within Siemens where internal coaches who have a coaching training provide coaching sessions for women who wish to develop themselves in Siemens, and is a very powerful grassroots initiative. And I was also involved in that as well, Steffi. I think it was an amazing, or is an amazing initiative.
Yeah.
Now, Steffi, the reason that I was particularly interested in talking to you is because, as we all know, the topic of AI is going through something of a boom at the moment. But you have done something very interesting in this field together with coaching, which I thought was very interesting, because I have to admit, and here a little bit more background to the listeners, I took part in a session organized by Steffi showing how you could use a particular tool, a particular AI tool to support a coaching program. And I went in a little bit skeptical and came out something of a believer. So a real conversion there. But maybe it would be interesting for listeners if you, because you have this experience, could you give us an overview of what research is focusing on in the field of AI and coaching at the moment?
Sure. I did a lot of research on the topic, because during my master's, I also decided to write my master thesis on that topic, because AI and the development there, as well as coaching, are two of my passions. So what I basically came across during this research phase is that there are different focus topics when it comes to AI and coaching. So one focus is really on, can AI replace a coach in total? And I found different kind of researchers there looking at already existing tools and doing test studies here on, does it work to replace a coach in total? What are the benefits? What are the problems here? And also developing new tools. So, for example, a chatbot that was especially developed to be a coach in the future, or also a video bot interacting where you could participate or try it out. So when you look it up, you actually find a lot of this replacement topic, I would say. Mm-hmm. And the other research focus where I also found a lot on was, how can coaches already use AI to support them with their process? So, for example, as a supplementary tool, when they try to evaluate how the next coaching session could look like, try to find good questions, examples on how this can be used, but also how could you maybe help your coachee to use AI as a bridge between the different coaching sessions. So really leaving it open, but also having a look at, if, for example, my coachee uses between the sessions ChatGPT, not with a clear purpose or a clear agenda, rather just interact, keep working on your goal, and make use of AI in that way. And these were basically the two focus topics that I found a lot on already. And what we will also come later on, I guess, in a little bit more detail, is that I was really missing out a little bit the part where we have an integrational approach, really. So trying to evaluate, not to completely replace a coach, but having a look at the parts that can be replaced with the usage of AI within a coaching process, basically.
Right.
But I guess, we will share a little bit more later on that.
Yeah, let's go on to that in a second. Now, the tool that I saw you working with, a coaching tool, is called the Inner Team. And this was Inner Team is a coaching tool which I like a lot, and so I was kind of particularly interested in how AI could support there, could work there. But could you just explain what the Inner Team tool is, and how it works, and then why you selected it for your experiment?
Sure. So the Inner Team model is a concept that has been developed by Schulz von Thun. Probably some listeners have already heard about it because he's done a lot of research on communication parts. Right. And what I'm currently, when trying to explain the Inner Team model, I always like to refer to the movie Inside Out, where there is also the sequel that came out, because it's a movie I think a lot of people have reference to, or at least understand a little bit on how it works.
Right.
And is showing the idea of the Inner Team model pretty well. So for those of you who don't know the movie itself, it's basically showing different kind of feelings that each character has. So for example, joy, sadness, and the voices and perspectives they represent, I would say.
And anger as well.
Yeah, a lot of emotions coming up there. And I think it just explains it in a very simple way, that in each situations we all have these emotions, and they have to align somehow, have discussions with each other. And then the outcome is not just a simple emotion or simple opinions, but us actually having an inner team in ourselves discussing about how do we want to react, how do we feel, who is going to maybe be stronger in that moment, which emotion might be suppressed a little bit, these kind of things. And basically the Inner Team model is pretty similar. So it's not that you necessarily define it by the emotions as it is done within the movie, but rather try to find opinions or perspectives in the specific situations and then combine it with emotions. But therefore, joy could maybe have different opinions on it and not just be one voice in the end.
Right.
But they also, it's an inner team, so they also have discussions, they also have conflicts within each other, so voices having different opinions there, and the purpose is basically also to make a clarity on the perspectives I have, also engage in a dialogue, and then find possibilities on how can improve on that. And I think we both share the same passion for the model, because I think it is so extremely powerful, because in every kind of conflict you have, you can always use it to just gain clarity on what is going on within myself currently.
Right. What I would also say is that occasionally, when I first described the Inner Team to a client, the reaction has been, "What? You're saying that I have different voices in my head?" And sometimes I've even felt that people have a certain fear of the idea that there are different voices in their head control that they need to bring into harmony with each other when they want to make a decision. Okay, but like you say, a very powerful tool. And something which is incredibly useful in coaching. So, okay, I'm familiar with using the Inner Team. I quite often use it with a pin board, or, for example, with a concept board if I'm working virtually. How have you incorporated AI into this?
So as I said before, my purpose was to have a look at an integrational approach, also on what parts could you, replace a coach with AI. And when you look at the Inner Team model, the process of defining or using it within the coaching process, you have different steps that need to be undertaken. First of all, you always define a goal within the Inner Team model itself. Also, what is my purpose of using that tool? What do I want to take away from it? Then you identify what are actually these Inner Team members. So what kind of voices do I have? What is the message they say to me? Usually also, how do they look like? So it's easier to grasp them and give them a name so I can also address them. So this is the identification of the members then. Then you engage in dialogue. So actually also try to understand what is the conflict behind, what does it also feel like when they talk to each other. And then you finally do some action items and see how can I use this new gained knowledge for my actual goal that I identified in the beginning. And what I did now in my test study is to take this identification part of the inner team model and have one test group doing the identification with ChatGPT, followed by an analysis session with me as a coach. So that's why I'm saying integrational approach. And the other test group who did both of these parts with me in coaching sessions. And then in the end, I also compared the feedback. So I received feedback from them on different topics, like how do you evaluate the relationship to your coach, to your AI coach, to your personal coach? How satisfied are you with the result of the sessions, like the first and the second session, of course? How likely are you to recommend the coaching so far? So really get quantitative feedback on how they feel about it. But also I analyzed and compared the dialogues between the two test groups. How is the quality of the results in the end, in my opinion, there. So this is the setup. And maybe also to mention, I also prepared an initial prompt on how to evaluate the inner team model with ChatGPT. So I did a short introduction at the beginning where we identified the team and the goal together, where I explained the model. So not just leaving them completely open here, take ChatGPT, but really integrating it into the whole process, and gave this first initial prompt on how to start the conversation with ChatGPT. And for all of our listeners today, we will also be sharing this prompt, so feel free to use it and try it out yourself to see what inner persons you have, I would say.
Okay. Steffi, would it be possible for you to kind of share some of the topics that people brought up in your studies and how it worked, so that people have a clear understanding of how both you and the tool were able to help the client develop their the different personas that they were were experiencing in their particular conflicts.
With topics, you mean like focus topics that we've worked on, or how it in generally worked incorporating ChatGPT there? Like what the results basically were?
Well, for example, in a team session that I might have, I will discuss with the clients the particular characters, the particular voices that they have conflicting with them. So, for example, with one client, we had both a princess and a sergeant major, and a teacher, and a parent as different voices that the client had expressing their different opinions that reflected the issue that she had. How did that work with both with a client and then also with ChatGPT? For example, did ChatGPT help the client to suggest particular names for the voices, or how did that work?
Sure, I can share a little bit more on that. Like when I myself do this inner team evaluation, I usually always start with a question like, what is maybe the next feeling you get? How does it feel? Or what image comes into your mind? Because I think it's really different also from coachee to coachee. What do they have more relations to? Like some people can more identify or easily identify feelings they have in the moment, and that is the best way to identify a new person. Others identify maybe more thoughts they have. So really depending on what is the best way for the coachee. And then, like you said, there are different people coming up. So usually, or oftentimes, it's like a strict character, a teacher, maybe, as you said, who is really pushing the client then in the end to something, or putting pressure on it. Also like a happy persona in the end also, which is a little bit more cheerful. So different kind of things, but I think this really depends also on the goal itself.
Right.
When it came to ChatGPT and the identification, it was also a little bit depending on the coach here. So ChatGPT had the in this initial prompt, as I mentioned, he also had the clear requirement to identify, for example, the message, the visualization, as well as the name. And there were some conversations with coaches where the coachee explicitly also asked at the beginning, okay, can you please share an example for me to get started? And when this happened, for example, then ChatGPT also gave a little bit of recommendation for the naming or something. So gave suggestions, but this was not initially the case. And when this happened, for example, this is also why I focused on this integrational approach, is because I read through these ChatGPT conversations, and then in the coaching session, I could also redefine, is it really the right name for you? Because I saw, okay, it was a suggestion initially. Maybe the coachee should think about it again. Does it still feel right? Do I want to change something? So this is, something you can still adapt as a coach, I would say.
And that seems, I think that sounds like a really important step, to look through the transcripts and then discuss the output from that, to make sure that ChatGPT isn't steering the conversation too much.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
This is why this integration is, still the coach is always the owner and has to ensure the quality of the process, in my opinion.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. The coach is responsible for the process, though not the outcome. And as Steffi said, we will share also the initial prompt for you to have a look at and to play around with as well, if you're interested. Okay, so you've set it up. You've set up 2 test groups, one with ChatGPT, one working with you. So what happens, and how do clients react to working with AI, even if it's only in a first phase, compared to working with a live coach?
Like in regards to the coaches, when they entered this whole process, they were really open, and I was really open, to be honest. So let me take you on this little journey. And when I then received the conversations they had with ChatGPT, to be honest, I was initially a little surprised and also concerned, because in my opinion, like I said, ChatGPT gave suggestions on the name, so I couldn't really stick to the neutrality that a coach needs. And also the quality of the responses in the end, like there was an inner team set up, but in my first opinion, it was not as good as it could have been in a real coaching session. Mm-hmm. This is also what I could see in the quantitative analysis. So as I said, I also asked them, how satisfied are you after this initial process? And this ChatGPT chat group also rated it significantly worse than the coach test group. Mm-hmm. Most of the feedback there was that it's also due to they missed really understanding the value. Like they said, okay, I have this overview now, but what do I actually gain from that? What do I do with it? And in my live coaching sessions, I also always incorporate at the end of the session, like do a little reflection with the coachee. So they always have the feeling, okay, this is beneficial for me and I take something concrete out of it. And this was completely missing in the ChatGPT conversation. However, after the second session, these concerns and also differences were not there anymore. Mm-hmm. So really, it was a major step to have a look at the beginning of this analysis session with the ChatGPT test group again on their inner team, doing a little bit of refinement, like, as I said, for example, looking again at the suggested names. Are they really feeling good? Is there maybe something completely missing? Just going with them over this inner team firstly again and redefining it. And then in the end, the quality was the same. So there was no significant difference between the personas that were set up. Also, the satisfaction, recommendation of the coaching, everything was not significantly different between the two test groups. So it was really a good basis to start the dialogue, I would say. Because as I said, integrational approach. So there is the possibility for this refinement. So it doesn't really matter that maybe in the initial phase there were a little bit different, because it's about the whole overall process, I would say. Right. And I even checked in like a few weeks ago with the coaches to prepare for today and to see if there are any differences now that this process, like I did this research, I think like 6 months ago, to see also what is the current status, how would they feel about the results now? Is there any difference between the two test groups? And there was actually none, because both still said that they are still using the insights that we gained throughout this process. So really happy that also this more long-term feedback is really valuable here.
I mean, just from the point of view of time, so how long, do you know how long the clients who were working with ChatGPT, do you know how much time they spent developing the personas?
Yeah, I also asked them to document this, and it was really different. There were people who said they took like 15 minutes. There were others who said it took like an hour. So I also gave a recommendation at the end that they should really get into it. So take some time. Usually I would say it takes at least 30 minutes to have a look at that. But it was different, but you could also see that a little bit in the quality in the end. Like people who spend 15 minutes, they maybe didn't dig into that much detail. Also something that we did a refinement then on afterwards.
And with the follow-up session, you said that you went through the transcripts and you discussed with the transcripts with the clients to see if they were completely happy with what they had generated and maybe change something. Did that take much time?
I would say usually it took like 10 minutes, so not too much time. Okay. I didn't go through the transcript itself. Like I used the transcript to draft a board, like to visualize the personas with the content there. And then we had a look. So they also are not too much into detail on what did I exactly write, or maybe what did also ChatGPT exactly propose, but rather reevaluating, does this vision, does this overview feel right, or what sticks into my, or comes into my vision that I don't feel like is correct anymore.
Okay. So what would you say are the benefits of having a tool like this?
To be honest, in my opinion, it makes coaching a lot easier for both sides. First of all, like for coaches, you can use this to also already prepare a little bit in advance with all these limited resources that you might have. Also with the limited resources of good coaches being available for coachees, especially, you can, outsource parts where coaches can already prepare a little bit themselves, and then really focus on this analysis and getting the most out of it, than rather just writing it down or analyzing it, evaluating it. That's the right word. Sorry. In the initial phase. And I also think that is easier for coaches when sharing this personal information at the beginning to use it with an AI. Of course, everybody is different here. If you already have a good relationship with your coach, this might change. But I also think just it's a good starting point when starting this coaching process. It might seem a little bit easier to do it with AI rather than looking someone in the face and sharing this kind of information. Right. And also, I think they can do this kind of self-exploration in their own time frame, own pace, so that they feel comfortable with. Like I said, sometimes maybe they just want to invest 15 minutes to get quickly started, but at least there is a starting point, or they feel more comfortable to already dig deeper in it. It's just like the coaches can define themselves in that moment. What do I feel comfortable with? And then you have a basis where you can set the future coaching process up on.
And inevitably, of course, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask this question. What are some of the risks?
Of course, one major risk is privacy, data security, also always a big topic when it comes to AI. So also really important to ensure this, since we are talking about really personal information that our coaches are sharing here. I also think that there is still the possibility to get rather generic or inappropriate responses. So ChatGPT or any other AI tools still don't have the same amount of emotional intelligence and might not always keep the neutrality, as I stated before. So this is something that we just have to be aware of. And also, as we already said, the coach is always responsible for the coaching process. So in my opinion, it is still the coach's task to firstly ensure that these neutrality is somehow kept, or at least that the coachee is made aware of. Also to select the right tooling that is helpful. So not just ask the coachee to interact with AI on anything, but really giving him or her some guidance on what to use, how to use it. This is important from my point of view.
And Steffi says we will share the prompt that she developed for her clients for you to have a look at and to maybe tweak in the directions that suit you best. But I have to say the prompt that this particular prompt that Steffi developed, when I tried it out, I was super impressed with how well it worked. What would be further possible use cases, do you think, for ChatGPT integration into coaching?
I think pretty much any intervention form in coaching or also coaching model, as we said before, has this kind of evaluation elaboration part. So also when you look at other models, there is always this firstly describing as is situations and then diving more in analysis parts. And I think this elaboration part can oftentimes be outsourced to ChatGPT just to build this foundation and then really have more time and focus on the analysis and the takeaways that the coachee wants to have.
Okay. And a question. ChatGPT, of course, is text-based. You type in your prompt, you get the written response back. And an area which I'm also interested in for other training purposes is that of avatars. Do you think avatars will play a role in coaching? Could that be positive or negative? Or could it be both?
I think it could be both. I believe it's really hard to predict what AI will bring to the future because I believe there are so many possibilities and it develops so fast that probably also the current research will not represent on how it is going to be. I also did some tests. As I said, I found some research on replacement of coaches, and some of them were also avatar based, and I tried them out and I had pretty much the same experience as you just described. So I was not really satisfied on the results, but I also found a lot of research on how it is already evaluated, recording this video coaching session then and really analyzing the coachee also in regards to his reactions and this kind of psychological background that we already know about others, analyzing this in parallel. And I think this would be a really powerful tool, and therefore avatar interaction would be really helpful. But
you mean sort of micro gestures and things like that, right?
But to me, I think it really depends on the coachee here as well. For some, it might even be easier to get this process started when just writing in a script, feeling a little bit more anonymous than already having an avatar on your page where it feels like you're really interacting with something, and this anonymity is taken away. So maybe for these people, it is not the avatar solution that is going to be helpful, but rather really chat-based solution.
Yeah.
For others, this might feel like I'm talking to an AI machine and miss the social interaction within it. They need the avatar, and I think there it will develop, and it will be possible in the future that it takes on this kind of role. But I think this is also something when talking about AI in coaching, we have to take into account. There is not going to be one final solution that's going to fit to everyone, but there are going to be different ones because it really depends on the coachee and what helps him or her in the end best.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I think it's going to be a super interesting field to watch as it develops. And I think I agree with you that I don't think coaches are going to be replaced by AI, but maybe coaches who refuse to even think about how they can incorporate AI into their work could be at a disadvantage with those who, like you, use it intelligently in order to help the process. Steffi, thank you so much for talking about this topic here.
Thank you very much for having me, James.
And to all our listeners, I hope that you found it as stimulating as I did. So let's summarize what Steffi told us today. For her master's thesis, Steffi carried out research on the use of AI to support the coaching process when using a standard coaching tool called the Inner Team, developed by Professor Friedemann Schulz von Thun, a communication psychologist based in Hamburg. She set up 2 groups, one group using ChatGPT, the other group working as usual with her as their coach. The objective was to measure how effectively ChatGPT could do the first stage of the coaching process using the Inner Team in comparison with a real coach. After the initial stage, the coach took over the continuation of the coaching process for the individuals in both groups. Steffi collected feedback from all of the individuals in the groups at 2 stages. After the first stage had been completed, and again after the entire coaching process had been finished. After stage 1, clients felt that the real coach performed better than ChatGPT. However, after stage 2, the clients rated the complete coaching process, both with or without ChatGPT, as the same. Steffi's conclusion was that integrating ChatGPT into the coaching process using the Inner Team did not produce inferior results. A coach could therefore use ChatGPT to take over some of the more routine tasks in working with the Inner Team, allowing the coach to work more efficiently. Steffi's overall conclusion: AI is going to be a useful aid for coaches to help them do their job, but will not replace them. The successful coach is the one that is able to integrate AI tools sensibly into their repertoire of techniques to support their clients. And remember, if you would like to work with the ChatGPT prompt that Steffi developed, it's available in the show notes. That's all from this episode of My Growth Coaching. If you like this podcast, please follow and give it a rating on whichever platform you use. And tell your friends about it too, especially if you think some of the ideas I discussed with my guests could be useful for them as well. After all, sharing is caring. I'll be back interviewing more great coaches about their experiences soon, so keep your eyes and ears open. Until then, take care and goodbye.